a Thursday edition of the Jackson Post, a double edition of the Jackson Post because we missed Sunday. So now we are cramming two editions into one, the September 18th edition of the Jackson Post, three stories from that, and the September 25th edition that just came out today, three stories from that. So Brandon, how are you doing on this Friday Eve?
I'm good, and I'm going to go ahead and be honest with you. It's been 11 days since I was out in my backyard, other than just like pouring water for my dogs. And it's just been raining in the last couple of days. But I'm amazed at how much some of my grass has grown back here. So
Looks like you got to mow this weekend.
I'm not going to do it this weekend, but because Saturday's a busy day in the Shields household, but it's going to have to be done at some point soon, and it's going to be a difficult job doing it. So, oh well. At least it's not 95 degrees anymore.
Not anymore. I think we're over the hump of like hot weather.
You just
I think
jinxed
this
it.
is it.
We are going to get a
know,
heat
man.
wave next week.
it's tomorrow. The high is 77. It's been like a year since it rained until finally this week, and so
Yeah.
I think that's all we needed. It's just a few days of showers, and so now we're on the downhill of summer.
You just
Actually,
jinxed it.
it's officially fall though, right? Like officially.
It is officially fall,
Yeah.
but because you said it, and because whoever's in charge of the weather, I have some Christian friends who think there's a verse that say it's Satan.
Well,
It
we
would
also have
shock
a
me
friend-
if Satan listens to the postcast, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna make it feel as hot as Humboldt next week. So
You think the devil puts us on his? You think he subscribes on YouTube?
he has.
Lucifer.
If Jackson is the buckle of the Bible Belt, which a column that will run in this week's print suggests, he's going to say it's time for America's pants to fall down. So I'm aiming for the belt buckle.
Wow. Okay, so he's putting all the heat here just because of the postcast. Just
Exactly.
He was one of our two likes last week, I guess. Probably. I can never tell who likes him. Two people liked last week's episode. Maybe he was one. Beelzebub. There was no double horn emoji though. I don't know how we got onto that. We were talking about the weather, and then
that
we
was
just
me
went
who
into
did that. That's my bad.
Wow.
That's on me. That's
okay.
on me.
Well, here's what we got tonight. We're just going to jump right into the rundown because we got two issues to cover, and here we go. The rundown on the first one, top three stories. We're going to talk about 6K. I don't even know what they are. I started to say
6K
what they
Energy.
were.
They make
6K
battery
Energy.
parts.
That's right. They make battery parts, and they've been building here for a little bit, or adding on. And so we're going to kind of get an update on what's going on with 6K. Kratom is back in the news. I guess it never really left, but we talked about it about a month ago. The initial meeting at the Republican caucus, then the city council drew up a resolution. County commission was going to do the same. But you attended a meeting with some big time elected officials, and then they weighed in on it. So we'll hear about what they said.
Oh, big time! It was Ed Jackson,
time.
Chris Todd.
That's big time, buddy. That's state
All
level.
right.
That's big
Well,
time.
when you say
That's,
when you say big time, I automatically think Blackburn and Haggerty. So, but they're too busy on Fox and Friends to discuss this. So,
oh no, they're not coming down here for some kratom. Now they may come down for some illegal immigration, but they ain't coming down for kratom. They'll go.
Well, they won't come down. They'll just issue a press release.
Or press release, or they'll take a trip all the way to the border, take a picture of being down there, and then post it out.
And then fly over West Tennessee on the way back to Nashville.
Yes. Yeah. Political caricatures. Okay. And then we had some inmates escape the county jail. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about that. They were kind of on the lam for a few days running around here. One of them made it to Nashville somehow.
That's where he's from.
Oh, well, still,
he was arrested and
got out.
Well, if
got
you
on the bus or something.
If you break out of jail and steal a truck less than an hour later, hopefully you get to Nashville too, because apparently some people around here thought he stole the truck and then just dumped it off 2 miles away on Hollywood Drive. But let's move on.
And by some people, you mean?
Okay. We'll get to that later.
We'll get to that later. All right. Some Facebook sleuths. And then on the September 25th edition, we are going to talk about two local multi-generational businesses, family-owned, a new candidate for county mayor. This is like, I feel like this is a big twist. I'm excited to see how it plays out. Sam Bryant threw his hat in the ring for the Republican primary, and we all remember the Republican primary 4 years ago for county mayor. Like, man, looks like it's time for an open primary discussion once again. And the last thing in this September 25th edition, we're going to talk some high school football if we get to it. So we got a lot to cover. So let's just get into the first story from the September 18th edition, which was about 6K energy or batteries or something.
6K
so
energy.
where are 6K energy? Where are we with 6K energy? Where do we start? Where are we now? Where are we going?
All right, so a little more than 2 years ago, June of 2023, it was actually the day of the runoff election between Scott Conger and Ray Condry. 6K had a groundbreaking ceremony out at their property in the industrial park on the western edge of Jackson by the airport. I only remember because I remember Mayor Conger getting a few good luck wishes at the event. And a few people joking, asking who he voted for that day. And but Governor Lee was there. The State Economic Development Commissioner, and his name has escaped my mind. It's not the current one. It was the previous one. He was there. So all the bigwigs were there celebrating this because it was 200 jobs coming to Jackson. And it was, when it first was announced a few weeks earlier, because it was battery maker people, I thought it was a Ford supplier coming, but they're not actually a Ford supplier, or at least if they are or will be, that's not been officially agreed upon yet. They make battery parts for all kinds of batteries. But anyways, there was speaking of inaccurate media reports that have gone locally, there was an inaccurate media report according to the CEO of 6K that I did the interview with, that said they were pretty much shutting down any thoughts of coming to Jackson, and they were rethinking it, moving out, and going forward with it. But that report didn't quote a single well, it quoted people, but it didn't name who the quotes came from. So good luck with that. But I talked to Sam Trench, the CEO, and I just said, "What is going on?" And he said, "Yeah, we had to pause, we had to delay it, because a lot of the funding for the actual construction of the building was based on getting grants from the Federal Department of Energy. They applied for the grants, they were mostly approved for them. They didn't get across the finish line just yet, but they were close enough. They went ahead and did the groundbreaking. They were going to get it by the end of 23. And just a lot of stuff happened with a lot of political type stuff happened, with it all culminating with the election last November, Donald Trump being elected back into office as president. And we all know about how the Trump administration has cut back on federal funding for certain initiatives. Clean energy initiatives is one of those things that's been pulled back on. And so it's not that they're not going to get that federal funding. They are going to get it, but it may also, instead of coming from the Department of Energy, it may come from the Department of Defense. So they've also kind of rearranged what they may do. I mean, they're still going to make battery parts, but they also may make stuff that works for the Department of Defense that goes in certain machinery that they use. And one of the things he said was missiles. I don't think we're making Patriot warheads here in Jackson, but maybe some of the hardware that goes into the machines that launch missiles, I think is kind of what may possibly be made here. But to give you the fast forward to the end, the good part, everything is on go. All the dirt has been moved. Pretty much everything they need to do has been done So now the next step is just essentially pouring the concrete and setting the foundation, and then moving up from there. Um, he said the plans are for us to start doing that early parts of 2026, and that'll be about an 18-month process. And then they're already discussing about a phase two and adding on to the building in like 28 or 29 after getting it done in 27.
Wow.
So the plan is still
When
for
was
6K. Go ahead.
what was the original timeline? When was it supposed to be complete when they broke ground?
Uh, I think they would have started operations already.
Okay.
Like I think they were going to start this earlier this year or sometime in 25. My dogs apparently have opinions on that, but they're very uninformed. So
They need some batteries built. That's what they're mad about.
it's just some of their. Never mind.
Something. Whoa. It's funny. I heard a story actually similar to this out of Georgia, where I don't know if you heard about ICE raiding the Hyundai factory or something like that.
I
Where
saw
a
that they
lot
did,
of
but I never clicked on that story, so I don't. I'm not very
yeah, and
informed on it.
essentially, yeah. So essentially, what happened was now a lot of international businesses are like, we don't know that we want to invest around here anymore. And the whole point of the story was this: that essentially, in a lot of red states, Georgia, Tennessee, where a lot of industry is coming in, and obviously governors who are very supportive of the Trump presidency, where some of Donald Trump's plans policy is sort of colliding with other like positive things in red states, and
Right.
both of these are sort of these like these unintended consequences of
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, chaotic governing. Like these sort of things happen. Like they just start running into each other, and this is another example of that. So it's good news that 6K is sort of like they're not going anywhere. Erroneous report out of I don't know, remember who it was. It wasn't the Daily Memphian, but somewhere, somebody outside of here, I believe. Um,
No, it was Jackson.
oh, it was Jackson. Okay, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Well, I've
Okay.
given them credit when they've done well, so I don't. So yeah, I mean it was 1015.
Oh,
Um,
oh, we're whiffing
I
a
mean
little
who
bit.
else?
Okay.
Who else would
Well, I
do?
didn't.
Who else would quote people without naming them?
The New York Times, they do that.
Yeah. Oh
New York
yeah.
Times
Good
will do
point.
that.
I'm talking about around here.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So that's and I remember that was addressed. I saw that. I think Kyle Spurgeon shared that on his LinkedIn. Like the correct there
Hmm.
was a piece that sort of corrected the story. So
Yeah.
okay.
The
Well,
Memphian. Yeah.
yeah, that's what it was. So all of that to say, 6K is still coming, and they're planning to add on once they do get it built. So that's good.
Yeah.
Something else that popped back up in the news, Kratom, and it's funny because this was an example we talked about a couple weeks ago where one side really discussed how dangerous it was. Then you kind of heard other people from the community say, "Well, hey, here it's helped me," and then there was a compromise reached to the city council, like, "Hey, on this resolution, can we adjust it a little bit to keep in mind these people who have benefited from it?" Right.
Yeah.
Um, so you attended a meeting with some state lawmakers present, Ed Jackson, Chris Todd. You said, what were their reactions to this? Was it similar to what we've been hearing? Have they been hearing things about this at the state level? Is there going to be legislation pushed to eliminate it completely? Where are we?
Well, Representative Todd actually said that they had it in a bill that was nearly passed 2 years ago that would have outlawed kratom 2 years ago before um, nonprofit leaders here in Madison County addressed it with the county commission. And I asked him, I said, "So what happened to it not passing back then?" And he said that it was part of a bill where a bunch of stuff got added to it, and a bunch of stuff just getting packed into it and packed into it. And then it finally got too big, so they started taking stuff out, and that was one of the things I was taking out to go ahead and get the main point of the bill passed. Um, so, but he said both he and Ed Jackson on the Senate side have been proponents for Madison County of doing something to regulate it, not just the synthetic, but also the natural plant. Um, and so But this meeting, it happened right after county commission on September what's today? 25th.
It's the 25th.
Yeah, so probably September 15th. And it was mainly for them to listen because Sheriff Weiser, Chief Corley from JPD, and Sam Gilley, who is the commander for Jody Pickens's drug task force for the 26th Judicial District. They were the ones doing the talking about this is how bad it is. This is the problem with it. Gilley, he was the one that was kind of saying, it metabolizes in your system just like heroin or methamphetamines, and it gets you that high.
Now, is he talking about the thing that they were extracting from the plant, like that 070, or what was it called?
708.
708.
He was mainly talking about that. I mean, the natural plant, if taken in larger doses, does the same thing. But yeah, the synthetic stuff was what they were really discussing. And how addictive it is. I mean, apparently the natural plant is addictive too. Chris Todd even talked about a family friend of his who suffered some injuries, like multiple broken bones in a work accident. And he had been diagnosed or prescribed something in the opioid, something in the opioid family. And after like 2 or 3 pills of taking that, he's like, I don't want to take this anymore, but I've really got this pain. So, or maybe he did start to get addicted to it. So he was like, okay, I've got to get off this before it just takes over my life. Kratom, the natural plant, is what he used to wean himself off the opioid, but then he had to wean himself off the kratom too. And Todd said, well, I appreciate that success story. I'm assuming that's a 1 in 1,000 type case, maybe even 1 in 10,000. So I don't know if we want to further that cause for the help of 0.01% of the population.
Yeah. And now I would push back on that, because I have actually read studies that kratom is used to wean people off opioids because it is less addictive. Yeah.
When Joanne Stone and shoot, the lady that's Lindsay Crowder at Asphalt. I mean, they even mentioned it in that first meeting with the Republican caucus of the county commission. This is used in treatment for tougher drugs, but usually when that happens, they get off the tougher drugs, but then they're hooked on this, and so we got to help them get off that.
Yeah. I think it was used more in like a very restricted environment where you're monitored by a health professional, right? Like, so they use it for that. And so it's not just out there willy nilly, you're buying it at over the counter at the Amoco, on the corner.
Right.
And, I mentioned a month and a half ago, we first brought this up. Anecdotally, I had a story as well about somebody who was buying them at the Valero, 10 years ago. And they aren't like, he didn't get addicted to them, but the fallout from those were really hard. It was really rough. And like, I absolutely believe there should be regulations on a lot of things, not just things like kratom, especially when they are damaging swaths of people, right? Like, it doesn't mean you outlaw everything, you just regulate things. So
yeah, it is amazing to me though, like how out there kratom is, and I had never seemingly heard of it until August whatever of the Republican caucus meeting that month, because since that meeting and since I've been writing about it so much, a couple weeks later, about a month ago, needed a filler story to fill some space in the print edition, and the governor's office sent out a thing that they gave a loan of some money from the state to the town of Cedar Grove, which is just across the Carroll County line. So I went and got a picture of the city limit or town limit sign of Cedar Grove. Well, there's a store there And as I'm turning around that store's parking lot, I look in the window and bright green neon, Kratom. I saw the same thing last night while going to Milan getting some Papa John's pizza. There's a vape shop just down from Papa John's. Kratom was real big in that window. Same thing in Humboldt. So it is being marketed. Uh, I just never look at those places to see, oh, this is what they're marketing. Um, but yeah, it's out there and it's affecting a lot of people, and there's a slippery slope. And the state legislature apparently already outlawed the synthetic uh, form of it, but now they're talking about what do we want to do um, with the natural. Some people want to be teetotalers with it, like they want to be with marijuana and CBD products, um, because a little addiction is leads to a bigger addiction, and it's essentially a gateway drug to bigger stuff. So they just want to go ahead and nip it in the kratom bud.
The kratom bud, nip it in the bud. No pun intended.
Yeah,
Pun intended. Well, but I will say I do think the gateway drug narrative has been, for marijuana has been disproven along the way. Like
exaggerated.
yeah, it's not a gateway. Yes, no, like there's not a correlation. And if there is, it is sort of it follows the logic. Like, of course, you're going to start with that, right? Like nobody's going to jump into just shooting heroin. Like that's not going to be the first thing anybody ever does. Like
Right,
you could technically, when we were growing up, call nicotine the gateway drug because nobody's smoking pot before they smoke a cigarette. But
right.
nobody calls cigarettes a gateway drug because tobacco company made way too much money, and nobody's going to outlaw that. So yes, like I've heard that argument, but I think it's, these are things that you just got to look at really closely because there are some positive things. I can tell you this, some of the things they offer at the CBD store that are completely legal for people over 18 have actually helped me become a much healthier person because I no longer drink alcohol or keep it in the
Mm,
house. So there are very much like positive benefits to some of this stuff, but on the other hand, if it is unregulated and unchecked, like I will applaud, and it hurt our buddy Patrick at Hemp Hill Farms, but I do think there needed to be some regulation of how many milligrams of THC or Delta 8 or Delta 9 goes into some of these drinks or gummies or whatever that they're selling, even that they're selling them legally. There's no reason you need to have 100 milligrams of Delta 9 in one gummy. Like
mm.
there's absolutely zero point to that, right? I mean, just like there's no reason anybody should, have a bazooka. Like it's all about like, I guess,
Moderation.
moderation for lack of a better word, right? Like just have some common sense regulations on these things and we won't be living in the Wild West, or mainlining kratom or whatever it is. So I'm glad they came down from Nashville to hear those concerns and, and you're right though, regulating anything is a slippery slope. Like I wish we would regulate more food, honestly. I wish we would
Yeah.
regulate firearms, honestly. And we need to regulate things like kratom. So yeah, like anyway, good conversation there. Last
Yep.
thing from the not June, geez, September
June.
18th
Wow.
edition of the Post. It feels like June. We had some inmates escape and run around town for a few days, and one of them even made it to Nashville. So we were talking before I started recording, and I was like, man, that was strange because you had three inmates escape, and then it was right on the heels of the Charlie Kirk assassination. That
Hmm.
both of those things happened around the same time. And so what would
Yeah,
have
one
been,
happened
I
on
think,
Wednesday. The other one happened on Sunday.
like a really big story, just sort of like locally kind of got not pushed under the rug by the Charlie Kirk stuff, but that's all anybody was talking about, and understandably so. That we just, or at least I did, kind of forgot we had some inmates running amok in Madison County. So, what do you know about that? I know there's probably an internal investigation going on at some point, or maybe it's still going on. Uh, what do you know? What have they told you? And where are we going from here?
Well, main thing is that as of I think last Friday, all three have been apprehended and are back in um, um, jail. Um, the but yeah, there's an internal investigation finding out how they got out that morning. And I'm hoping that after that investigation is done, Sheriff Weiser or somebody at the jail will be able to speak to uh, myself, at least me, hopefully just me, uh, to about what that internal investigation revealed and any steps that they're taking to kind of make sure it doesn't happen again. But yeah, I didn't necessarily forget about it, but there was one morning last week where I was like, oh yeah, they haven't gotten those guys yet. How's that going? Uh, and um, and yeah, I mean, you can definitely say everybody was focused on the reaction to Charlie Kirk because for some reason we were more focused last week on whether or not Jimmy Kimmel was going to keep his job than if we were going to catch 3 inmates from the CJC. Um, but I, I think that the the attention paid to it, at least publicly, probably wouldn't have been that much more if we weren't in the middle of the fallout from the Charlie Kirk shooting. Because, um, yeah, they sent out a alert on that Sunday morning, a couple hours after it happened, but they didn't end the alert with these men are considered armed and dangerous, like
Right.
a month earlier when Austin Drummond was on the run.
Mhm.
Uh, and these were nonviolent offenders. So it wasn't like, oh, he's armed and dangerous. Also, he has killed 4 people. And we know that he's somewhere in town. So when you take that part out of it, it's like, oh, yeah, I mean, we got 3 people that are out of the jail. Can we please get them back in, please? Thank you. But it wasn't like, oh, shoot, everybody get in your house because bullets could be flying if these people come running through our streets. Because it was also apparent that the 2 that were from Jackson were just trying to get to their house and just get out of the jail and just kind of return to some semblance of normal life without having to
Oh man,
pay their entire sentence.
how much longer?
Um,
Do you know how much longer they had left? That's what I was thinking too. Like, because man, the odds of escaping and actually getting away in 2025, like this isn't 1913. Like you just
al-
can't go off the grid.
well, and also, if you're from Jackson and all your family's in Jackson and you're in
Right.
jail in Jackson, where are you going to escape to that you're hoping to avoid JPD
I
and
know, man.
MCSO?
Like that's what I'm saying. So my thing is, I don't know. Like, I'm assuming they had quite a few years left if they were going to risk escaping. You know, now, I
I'll
mean,
I'll check into that
yeah.
if and when we get to have the interview about the internal investigation. I plan on asking about that too.
Second question about this because it, I would be under the impression that if I'm running the sheriff's department and we have escaped inmates, that I would probably be giving regular updates to the media. One, does that happen? Two, if it doesn't, I guess on the flip side of that, I can understand why they wouldn't be putting out public information if they were actively searching for people who were out. So, like, were you getting regular updates, or and if you weren't, is it because they didn't want to put the investigation in jeopardy, or how does that normally work?
Well, first off, Sheriff Weiser, for better or for worse, he doesn't like talking to the media. Period. He hates all of our guts. He wishes we didn't. No, that's not the case. I actually have a pretty
Yeah,
good
maybe
relationship now
no.
with the sheriff. Better than what it has been. Let me put it that way. But in all seriousness, it's like a college football coach or a high school football coach. They're not going to tell you, yeah, we're going to line up in the shotgun first play from scrimmage this week, and we're going to try to throw it to this receiver on the edge because we're going to pick on that cornerback over there. So Sheriff Weiser doesn't like to essentially give his playbook out. Law enforcement tends to work better when they don't talk as much. Um, And the ones who do talk a lot tend to get criticized by the rest of the law enforcement community that's surrounding them in other counties and cities. And after we get through recording, I'll give you examples of that.
I knew there was
But
one.
I'm not.
Like that wasn't just okay.
But but he did. I mean, he gave updates. I think he gave at least one update through a press release once a day until
Okay.
the two local ones were apprehended and back in custody. Um, I mean, the truck that was stolen a couple hours after they got out. That was the was his last name Decker? Dylan Decker, was that his name?
Mm.
That was the guy that had been arrested in Dixon, or was from
Okay.
Dixon when he got arrested here, and so he was headed back home to Middle
Mm.
Tennessee. And contrary to reports from other media outlets that were mentioned earlier in this podcast, that truck was not ditched on Hollywood Drive because that would be stupid unless it was just nearly out of gas and they stole it before. Because from what I understand, they stole it at a gas station. That may be inaccurate information. And if anybody at the sheriff's office is watching or listening to this, my apologies. Um, but if they stole it before they got the gas, if it was at a gas station, then yeah, maybe it would have been ditched at Hollywood. But if you just got a truck and you live an hour and a half, 2 hours away, surely you're going to drive that truck an hour and a half, 2 hours away before you ditch it. Um, but that is what happened. And but but he got caught 5 days later in Nashville, and I think Nashville PD, Nashville Metro PD, is the one that got him, and so he's back in custody. Um, but yeah, it's just um, we'll find out. Hopefully, we'll get answers about what happened, what they're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. Um, but fortunately, it wasn't a obvious unsafe situation for the public, and they were able to get it resolved within less than 120 hours.
All right. Good job. Good job to everybody, except for the media
Uh,
outlet that said the truck was on Hollywood.
yeah.
Oh for 2. Um,
Mm.
okay. Yeah. September 25th edition. Hop into it. We got 3 stories here. And the first story is about 2 local businesses, family owned. You did the story on Asia Garden. I did the story on Havner's Frame Shop. So I
Hmm.
figured the way we'll do this is I'll just talk a little about Havner's. I'll kick it to you. You can talk about Asia Garden. And then we'll move
Go
on to
for it.
talking about Sam Bryant and then high school football. Then we'll call it a night.
All right.
So Havner's Frame Shop, real quick. This was a story I wrote. It took me a while between the time I interviewed Charlie and Trista, who are the owners, to actually type it out and get it in print. So, first of all, Charlie and Trista, if you were listening, thank you for your patience on my end. So, Charlie and Trista have been owners of Havner's since right before COVID. And that was sort of like the
Mm.
joke in the interview where, Charlie said, yeah, we signed the papers. And then like a month later, COVID hit and everything had to shut
Yeah.
down. And that I cannot imagine a scarier feeling if you're a small business owner than that, right? You've just signed, you've just taken ownership. Of course, if you're familiar with Havner's, they weathered that storm and they have a beautiful building downtown that not only frames art but also puts on art shows. And Trista has done an incredible job of keeping rotating shows consistently through Havner's, hosting parties, hosting events that bring people in the community together. Even if art isn't your thing or you've never been to an art show, because let's face it, rural West Tennessee, there's not that many opportunities to do things like that. So I think that's one thing
That
that
is growing,
Havner's is,
but yeah.
yeah, it's growing now. Yeah, but I think that's one thing Havner's has done really well is consistently offer these shows for free, right? Like they don't charge anything for them. At least I don't think they do. And you can
Mhm.
attend and just commune with people, hear about the art, hear from the artist, and there's more of these happening, like you said, but Trista had a very specific vision for this, and it's very cool to see the way that business has evolved, starting in a shed in Charlie's granddad's, I guess, backyard, living in Hicksville. He started making frames for friends and family in the 70s. Moved to the store on Campbell, which I have vivid memories of as a kid. I have a Will Clark painting, oil painting framed that I bought in Arlington, Texas, or my parents did when I was in ninth grade. I was such a huge Will Clark
Mhm.
fan. Got it framed at Havner's, still hanging in my back room right now. So yeah, I have a lot of memories from that shop, and the evolution of it and where it is now. I think it's very apropos for downtown and sort of for the way Jackson's going. I feel like Havner's is a good reflection of that. So what about Asian
Yeah.
Garden?
Well, and I just appreciate the fact that, I mean, I love the way you set that story up. Going back to the beginning with uh, Ray. Was that the granddad's name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just how Dad carried the tradition on, and um, now Charlie has taken the baton and is running with it, and his wife's running right beside him with it. But yeah, speaking of restaurants that have become relay races for families now, um, in the mid '80s, we had the oh shoot, how do we pronounce the last name? Yay?
Yay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. The Ye family moved. They had immigrated from Taiwan to America, started in New York. And then a friend of theirs had moved to Jacksonville, Florida, and they had started a restaurant there, and they were actually helping them with that one. And then they were reading the newspaper and saw a full page ad for people who were trying to sell their own restaurant businesses, and they started looking around trying to see where they could potentially put a Asian restaurant. Um, and they saw there were opportunities in Tennessee, so they took a few days and went and looked at a place in Chattanooga, a place in Nashville, and then, as Kathy Ye put it, who is Eddie Ye's mother, she said Jackson is the last place we had on our list of places to go, but fortunately, that was the best place to go, because Asia Garden had actually already started before they got here. Another person had started the business, but they were just having like workforce issues. Um, and um, so it was just a struggle to have enough help and to adequately run the business. So they were ready to go ahead and sell after the way they talked. It was less than a year.
Mm.
Um, so Kathy and her late husband, um, and I forget his name. It was my apologies to him for that, or to the family for that. They bought it along with Kathy's brother and his wife. The four of them kind of working together on running the restaurant, and it was mainly staffed by family. The four of them and their kids, and a few other family members from New York came down, staffed it for about 20 years. The business grew a lot in the late '80s, um, and continued to grow in the '90s. Eddie, I didn't put this in the story, but during the interview, Eddie actually pointed out when Liquor by the Drink got passed in Jackson, we started growing even more at that, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
restaurants grew even more after that. But then late '90s and early 2000s, business starts to decline a little bit because everything's starting to move out north. You get the growth on Van Drive and north of the interstate. So a lot of the traffic isn't coming by Hamilton Hills as much anymore. And so it gets to the point where Eddie's parents are ready to sell. Eddie was a couple years ahead of you at JCM.
Mm-hmm.
He graduated in 1996, and then he went to the University of South, played football there, um, and got his degree there. And he had come back and was involved in the family's real estate businesses. business ventures, and he heard they told him that they were looking at selling the restaurant. He said, "Let me see if I can get the money together to buy it myself because I'm not ready for it to leave the family yet." And his parents or his mother set him down. I think his dad died while he was in college. His mother set him down and said, "Look, if you're going to own this, it's going to be more than just showing up and frying some rice and then heading home. You have got to be the boss. You got to run this business. And these people, however many employees you have, which is up to about 45 or 50 now, these people are going to depend on you. So you can't, you've got to be committed to it." And he became committed to it. And because he was still in his 20s, he was still young enough that he could see. He bought it in '06. The next year, the iPhone is released. After that, Facebook and Twitter and everything blows. Every social media except for MySpace blows up after that. And Eddie starts to see we can actually use these to market our business a little better. He uses that to his advantage, and so not only had business stabilized and actually started picking up, it actually kind of ballooned after that a little bit, and they've kind of used that momentum to ride through a couple other challenges. The main one being while the Havners were starting up the third generation of their business, Asia Garden was rolling in 2019 into 20. But the COVID-19 pandemic protocols hit the restaurant industry a little harder than it hit the framing industry. But he said we were committed. The day after he shut down, we had a meeting, or I guess the day of the shutdown. He met with the entire staff. He said, "We may run this truck off the cliff, but we are not going to cut back on your pay. We're not going to cut back on your hours. We're going to find something for you to do. And one way or another, we're going to make it through this." And I remember doing stories back then with the Sun about, they had musical artists coming in and doing Facebook Live concerts.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Lolo doing one, and, she'd say, "Oh, yeah, try out the Kung Pao chicken, stir fry or whatever." And they'd get a bunch of orders for the Kung Pao chicken stir fry, and they were already delivering, so they didn't have to get that set up.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd send out deliveries. They had their curbside working, and people were Venmoing the artists money for so they were able to stay in business too. So he was he was one of the local leaders who was on the cutting edge of making sure restaurants didn't go under around here during the pandemic. So he said, "I'm kind of becoming the old guy around here now, at 47 years old, but I've got to try to keep adapting if I want to keep this going for 50 years and 60 years." So he said, "I don't know what that's going to look like," he said, "but we're going to continue to adapt and keep Asia Garden relevant for and develop a whole new generation of loyal customers." And hopefully and our plan is to keep the food as good as it has been that's kept us in business for 40 years and keep it rolling for another 40 more.
I think they are the premier sushi restaurant in Jackson. Like, I mean, that's my go-to spot. My daughter prefers Hana. Not gonna lie. And so if last year we ate Hana more. My preference is Asia Garden. I've always liked it. Eddie was at JCM. I have a quick story about him. Um, my freshman year, I was on the basketball team. So we had like sixth period as a athletic period. And so
Right.
before the season started, I realized that I don't belong on this court with Al Wilson and a lot of other these football players that came back, after football season was over. And I'm like, I don't need to be out here. So I was like, I'd rather play church league. So I told the coach I'm going to quit, but I didn't want to take a regular class. So they let me watch the football jerseys, right? I still wanted my sixth period, like, to be an athletic period, even though I wasn't playing basketball. So I got to just kind of hang out and in the basement Omen Arena in the football locker room. So I would go in there and spot people working out, whatever. Eddie A, right? This might be just like a bad memory that I have, or a memory that's exaggerated in my brain because I was so small or so young. But he was on the squat rack, and Brandon, I promise you, the bar was bending over his back. It had so much weight on it. He was the strongest person that I ever saw squat in the basement of the Omen Arena, and this is on a team with Al Wilson and a ton of other Division I college football players. But Eddie A squatted
Was
the
Artist there
most.
yet?
Yeah, Artist. But here's
Was
the thing about
Artist there
Artist.
yet?
Yes, but he Artist didn't get to be Artist until like his senior year. Like he was.
Okay.
I would not have said. I don't think I would have picked him to go do what he did up until his senior year,
Yeah.
right? Like he was sort of a late bloomer, and
Yeah.
he really blew up in college. Like that was his. I think that's when he really blew up. So yeah, but no, Eddie A in high school, man, the bar literally bending over his, like you could see it, the steel, because there were so many
Well,
plates on either
and I
side.
could see that. I mean, he's a pretty stout guy, and I'm thinking that stoutness is not because he likes to enjoy his lo mein noodles.
No, he,
I mean, you can tell there's some he's pretty solid. So
he was strong, very strong,
yeah,
very
I can
strong.
see that.
Speaking of not squatting, but local ownership, and a local Jackson person, I believe Sam is a local Jackson person. Sam Bryant announced that he was running for mayor, or is he going to throw his head into the Republican primary, I guess, to challenge Mayor Massey for
Hmm.
reelection this year. Sam owns Bryant Distillery out
Hmm.
exit, I forgot, 72 maybe, something like that, 74. It's a cool spot out there. I've only been once, but yeah, it's a really neat area out there. So I was kind of surprised when I saw this announcement. Have you talked to Sam yet? If you did, what did he tell you about running? Why did he choose to run as a Republican? Why did he choose to run at all? What'd you hear from him?
Well, yes, I did talk to him because stories like this. Well, I'm not going to say I don't run press releases because I have started running press releases, but I did not run a press release for this. Yeah. Now I've been out to the distillery once um, to do this interview, and you're right. It is a cool little piece of land out there with, and you wouldn't think you're like literally 40 yards from one of the key interstates of the entire country that goes from California to North Carolina, but there it is in his backyard. Um, but yeah, he's um, apparently in his younger days he was involved in local politics. He is a local guy. He's a Jackson Christian graduate, born and raised here, except for a couple of years going to Christian Brothers in Memphis. Lived in Madison County his entire life. Um, he's owned a tree trimming business. He has worked for Edelman and Edelman in personal finance or financial management. And then 11 years ago, he started the distillery business and actually went public. Or when I say went public, he actually opened it up after getting everything built and set up. He actually opened it in 2016. So for 9 years, he's been running the business, and like you said, it's turned into a pretty successful business. And he said, I feel like between running two businesses that were pretty successful, the tree trimming business he sold to a local contractor, um, and the experience I have in personal finance, and just keeping up with local government and our advantages here, our challenges, the things Madison County has going for it, the things we could be doing better. Um, he said, I feel like I've got the experience that I could really do something with that position. Um, I mean, we talked about how the county mayor is a position that if you want to get anything done within government, politically, you can't do it without the blessing of 13 commissioners out of 25. But he feels like that he can he can do a good job of maintaining those relationships and having good relationships with everybody and making things work with them. So he's prepared to try to do that, and he's looking forward to the opportunity. And as of last Friday, election season 2026 has unofficially begun.
So here's something that kind of caught me off guard. Um, we know that local elections are becoming increasingly more partisan, uh, thanks to our state
What?
legislatures. Yes, I mean, now, like before, school board weren't partisan, city's not partisan, county was the only one that was really partisan. School board is now partisan, or we have the option to be, and you know,
Can I
for
stop you
some,
there for a second?
yes,
Can I stop you? Okay. So I think it was what, 22, 21 when school boards became partisan. They were partisan before 21. It's just now there's a primary election. We just have another election to vote in now for them. And Chris Todd has said he wants to make municipal elections partisan. They're already partisan. We just don't have a primary for those yet.
Ooh,
It's
no, no,
probably coming at some point, but they're
I
already
don't.
partisan.
I don't think I don't know. I disagree a little bit because then I think once you run under a letter, then you become beholden to that collective in a sense. Like I don't know what Scott Conger is. People call him liberal. I would not call him liberal, and I'm glad I don't know what he is. I truly see Mayor Conger as an independent, as somebody who is obviously not conservative, me right, and who leans probably very left. Like Mayor Conger does not look like a liberal to me. He looks like like, or if he is, he's a very moderate liberal in my view. Like for me from the outside, I can understand why a lot of people in West Tennessee might call him liberal. Collectively speaking, though, he is not a liberal person in my mind. At least his governing has not been like quote unquote liberal. School board, I kind of knew where people stood, but I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad there wasn't a letter by their name. I know the Republican caucus would endorse certain people for school board members, but they weren't running like in a primary or anything. Um, so anyway, I do
Mhm.
think that like yes, in a sense they were always partisan, but
My
you know,
comment was influenced by the 2023 city council elections. I mean, when
mm,
Brad Greer, the local Republican chairman, is discussing, yeah, we've got 5 or 6 Republicans on the council now. That's never happened before, and not even that. I mean, just watching how some of those on the Republican side of things operate as city council people.
right.
It, it's like you realize you didn't have a primary, right?
And that was
But
yeah, and that was sort of the
anyways, sorry.
movement
Go
in
ahead.
the no, the last couple of years have been like that, right? There is this hyper focus on like getting a certain party into local government. Um, so here's my
Mm-hmm.
question, and this is what caught me off guard. Massey is a Republican, and he is the incumbent.
Mm-hmm.
It's strange for me to, and I guess anyone could just like pull a petition and run as a Republican, but don't you have to get approval from the Republican Party to run in the primary? And if so, does that speak to some sort of like fracture within that party if they're finding somebody else to run against an already incumbent Republican?
The party, and I will say this, and you can, I know you and Brad aren't the best of friends. Um, Brad and
What?
I have had a checkered past too.
Brad doesn't like me?
But I will say one thing that Brad has stayed consistent on, Mr. Greer, is that at least publicly, privately may be a different issue, but publicly, the party does not take a stand on any candidate in a primary until after the primary is done, and then obviously they back whoever wins that nomination. So now there may be some backdoor conversations saying, uh, "Hey, if you want to run for office, we don't want you to, if you want to, go ahead. but we're asking you not to because we really want to keep this nomination or have a good nomination. So how about you not cause a vacuum of voters? But they're not going to publicly say this person is our guy or girl,
Right.
over other people who are running. So um, Mr. Bryant has announced he's running. I have heard. I mean, I haven't gotten it on the record yet that Massey is running for reelection, but I'm pretty sure if he were even considering not running for reelection, I would have heard that by now. I have not heard that. So I feel confident saying, counting him, I've heard of potentially three other people who's going to run for this position.
Wow. Okay.
And of those three, I assume all three are going to be Republicans. So we could have four on this Republican ballot. And I haven't even asked a Democratic Party if they've got anybody running. I'm going to be
Do we have
shocked if they don't.
do we have a Democratic Party here?
We do.
Listen, I'm just, and I can say
Um,
this. I can say this without it being mean because people think I'm a Democrat.
yeah.
Like,
Right.
there is, for all intents and purposes, there's really no Democratic Party right now. Like it is in shambles. It is a freaking wreck, locally and nationally. Catastrophe. Continue.
Oh yeah, definitely nationally. They are still trying to. They're. I mean, when. Well, I'm not even going to get into Kamala Harris.
Oh,
But
that book. Yeah. Okay.
um,
Continue. I'm sorry.
but well, I just heard her answer to the question from Rachel Maddow about why um, the one guy couldn't have been what wasn't a good choice to be her running mate. Well, it's not that he wasn't a good choice. He was a good choice, but he wasn't a good choice. Essentially, is what she said. Anyways, um, but I mean, what the Democratic Party in Madison County, what they need that they're not getting is participation, because they elected a new chairman back in March, but they didn't even have enough people show up for the meeting to have enough delegates for all the county commission districts. So they had to kind of play some Tetris and fill in some gaps, and that's not a criticism. Well, if you want to take it as a criticism, that's fine. But I'm not criticizing the leadership or anything. They just did what they had to do to be able to officially organize for the next 2 years. But I'm sure that they are. Has been efforts to find quality candidates for all 25 seats on the county commission, and all the constitutional officers, if for nothing else, but just to show the Republican Party we're not going away. We are going to challenge you, and we are going to keep you honest. And I mean, there are some districts that are you would call Democratic strongholds, um, in in the county. Most of them are in the city limits, but I mean, as red as Madison County is, there's a district with 3 representatives on the county commission, and none of them are Republican. And
Right.
so, I mean, there's potential, but yeah, they need to get enough involvement from their constituents to actually formulate a plan and be able to have the manpower to execute it. That's their
I do
issue.
want to bring this back to Sam before we talk about football real quick. Um,
Yeah.
I was very encouraged at some things I saw said about him on social media, in particular on one post. Like I just remember comment after comment of people who think like I do, and also people who think completely different than I do. They're all like, "Sam's a great guy. You got my vote. You're going to do great." And so, for the first time in a long time, I was like, "Oh, this is refreshing to see how many people are in agreement that this person is a good guy? And one of my buddies, who I respect a lot,
Mhm.
Scott Bumpus, runs Harley Davidson here, Bumpus Harley Davidson. I guess he hadn't seen that
Right.
Sam was running as a Republican yet. He made a comment, something along the lines of, "Well, I hope he runs as an independent." And basically, he was saying that because as soon as he put one letter or the other beside his name, people were going to have an automatic assumption about him. And so, um,
Yeah.
you know, thankfully, like, even though people do know he's running in the Republican primary, hopefully they won't be quick to judge just based on that. Because here's the thing about local elections, and again, why I don't think they should be partisan at all. Enough people in this town obviously know Sam. He doesn't need a letter beside his name to know like for those people to know his values, his personal values, his business acumen, and the way that he would manage a city, right, or a county. There's no need for a letter beside that name because everybody seemed to already know what he was about. So anyway, that was refreshing for me to see everybody kind of in one accord about how much they liked him, at least on that, you know. And that's saying something because usually there's one person who will pipe up and say something pretty bad on social media about somebody, but I didn't see any of that. So um,
Well, he did get a satire piece about him.
oh, I did see that. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I forgot. I don't count those all the time. I laugh at them all the time. I
Yeah.
don't count them all the time. All right, high school football. We got a
Well,
big week.
I
Oh,
didn't
go
laugh
ahead.
at that one. I felt that one. I didn't laugh at that one. I felt that one's kind of taking a shot at my story with his announcement. That kind of ticked me off. But okay.
Oh, I didn't see that. I didn't connect that part. Um, all right, high
Well,
school football.
I also
Who?
think things are about me that aren't.
It's called being a narcissist. All right, we got a big
Right.
delay on the phone, so let's roll to high school. Um,
All right.
who do we have this week? What you said there's before we started recording. You said we got a
Mm-hmm.
big week in what region 4 or
Yeah.
4A?
Region 7 4A. Yeah. Has a big week because there's a log jam at the top of that region. We've got 6 games on Friday. Liberty is off this week after taking their first loss last week to Southside. JCM is playing at Milan,
Mm-hmm.
and they're already at a point where they need to start winning if they're going to make the playoffs. They're not at a do or die point yet, but they're going to be close to it if they don't win at Milan this week. And Milan's probably going to win the region now that they have beaten Huntington. Peabody is still out there undefeated, and they don't play Peabody till week 11. So that may affect some things. So Peabody's already beaten JCM. Huntington's already beaten JCM. The good news for JCM is that after this week, they've got the toughest teams in the region out of the way.
Yep.
So
County
they
coming
might
in.
be able to kind of start climbing. Yeah. And then all the private schools. Um, TCA is playing at home. It's their homecoming. The other 2 are playing on the road. All 3 of them should win big. So I think all 3 are better enough over their opponents that they can essentially name the score. So, so that's 4 the games. The other 2 games are the biggies. Southside is hosting Lexington. I think they're hosting. Even if they're not, they're playing Lexington. Northside is playing Crockett County. That is them hosting. There are 5 teams in Region 7 4A out of 8 that have 1 loss. 4 of those 5 are Lexington, Southside, Northside, and Crockett County. The 5th one being Dyer County after Northside got that big win last week. So this is almost like a separation Friday in that region. 2 teams are probably going to be eliminated from contention for the region championship this week. And honestly, I don't know how either game is going to go. I think I picked Northside to win. I think I picked Lexington to win. But I could easily go 0-2 in those games. Just because North side's been up and down. South side's been up and down. Lexington's been up and down. Crockett's been mainly up. Um, but North side, if they're having an up week, they're good enough to play with them. If you want to go see some good football this week, you don't have to leave Jackson to do it. Probably.
Mm-hmm. That Northside Crockett County game should be fun tomorrow night. Also, a week from tomorrow, the opening of Hub City Central. So I just wanted to throw that in there. That's going to be a big deal. We're already planning for it. It's going to be a big dang deal. They still got a lot of work to get done in a week. At least maybe some sod laid on the backside of it, I guess. But I'm watching, like, from my class, I can see, like, the one block I teach, I can see straight across Royal, like, in, like, the parking lot got paved.
Yeah.
It seemed like it got paved overnight one time this week. Like, I walk in the next morning, I'm like, oh, there's the parking lot. It's done now. It's going to be nice, though.
Is it paved all the way around the convenience store there in the corner?
Ooh. Almost. It has. I don't think they've gotten all the way down to the corner yet.
Okay, because I was over there Wednesday to get a picture of the stadium updated, because the last one I had was like July. And as I was driving around, I saw the work going on the eastern edge of the parking lot toward the convenience store, package store, whatever that is over there. And I was like, so they must be expanding the parking lot, which they're going to have to do if they're going to put a event center and a football stadium / soccer stadium / track and field stadium there right together in one place.
Yeah, they are. They're extending it down, so I think they're going to pave that. Hopefully, next few days. Got a lot to look forward to, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
all right.
Gonna be a lot going on. One other story that was in this week's, I will mention, we doubled the size of our newsroom this week at the Post. It was right at 2 years ago, September 30th, 2023, was Julia Ewalt. Now Julia Stooksbury's final day at the Post before she went on to a better place, Hitachi in Alamo, and
not him. She didn't die.
So yeah, well, there's a bunch of people think Crockett County's on the way up there. So, but yeah, Julie Cook, who has been a known person in Jackson media for enough years that if I were to give an actual estimation on it, some people might view it as a disrespect of her. But she is a known person around here, and I'm glad that she is bringing her experience and her knowledge and institutional knowledge of Jackson to the Post. And so, yeah, you're going to start seeing stories from her real soon. Hopefully, as we're recording this on Thursday night, hopefully we're going to have some published online within the next 24 hours. So, if
Very
not,
nice.
by the end of the weekend, probably.
Always good to double a newsroom. So, but for real, like, that's great. That's great. All right, Brandon, I appreciate it, bud. We will talk again next week.
Hey, thank you.
See you later.
See ya.